Good afternoon. It's great to see everyone today. My name is LaCorey Meadows. I am a member of the CMC Board of Trustees, and I also serve as the Director of OSU Extension here in Franklin County. It is great to see everyone today. So today's forum, Changing Things Up at the Chamber, is brought to us with support from Deloitte, represented here today by many of their associates. Won't you please help me thank them and welcome John McEwen, Managing Partner of Deloitte's Columbus office, to the stage to introduce our speakers.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Jane, I love the new digs here. This is great. Great space, a great view of our wonderful downtown. On behalf of Deloitte and our many associates and a lot of clients, we're proud to support the Columbus Metropolitan Club and to convene these kind of discussions around the community, meaningful topics and things that are important to all of us. In that way, Deloitte and the CMC are very much alike, in that we strive to understand the issues in the community and solve some of the problems that we face. Today's forum is about business. It is very near and dear to us at Deloitte. The growth of our community and the growth of business spurs a lot of employment, a lot of jobs, and we really want to have a good conversation about that today. A lot of us have expertise in those areas, but and I sort of have a little bit of bias in this, but there are a few people that really have their hands on the pulse, or have had their hand on the pulse of business in Columbus than Don DePerro, and we're really and Nick now in that role with Business First. We're very glad to have them here. So please welcome Don DePerro, who is the CEO and President of the Columbus Chamber of Commerce, and Nick Fortine, who is the President and Publisher of Business First of Columbus. Please welcome them. We're joking that Nick was going to buy my lunch because Don's now the CEO and he is now the publisher of Business First. So we're glad to steal Don away from Business First. So Don's going to make a few opening comments, and then the two of these guys who have known each other for a while will answer some questions and talk about some issues and matters affecting all of us around business in the community. So thank you again. And Don, it's all yours.
Thank you, John. Thanks, everyone. How's everyone doing? Yeah, I joked to Nick. I said, John was one of my biggest advocates for the chamber job. So if it weren't for him, you wouldn't have your job right now. So John said, Nick, you can buy me lunch, which is great. So I was sitting at the kitchen table last night with some notes spread out. My wonderful wife said, so how you doing? And I said, I'm really nervous about this. She said, you're nervous about speaking? I said, well, I've only been at the chamber a couple of months. I really don't know what I'm doing. And she said, well, when has that ever stopped you from saying anything? Thanks, dear. Yeah. We had one of our new series a couple weeks ago, our Leadership for Small Business series. And Holly Caruso, who spent 14 years with me at Business First, and is now at the Chamber selling memberships, was standing with the photographer. And they were having kind of an active conversation back and forth, this banner. And then finally, after a couple of minutes, the photographer came over and got us together. I was standing with the keynote speaker, and he took our photo. And Holly circled around and said, did you see what was going on? And I said, no. I said, well, the photographer said, I've got to get a photograph of the keynote speaker. And Holly said, well, go up and take their photograph. And he said, I can't put Don DePerro in CEO magazine. And Holly goes, well, it's all right now. He's with the chamber. I said, really? So one thing led to another. So I've been saying I'm Switzerland now. I'm Switzerland. So the chamber, it's been great. It's really exciting. It's been a fun 2 months. I'm re-energized and enjoying every second of it. Our first step is redefining the Chamber of Commerce. You know, who are we and what do we do? I think that's really important to take a step back and look at the history of the Chamber. You know, it wasn't long ago when economic development, everything came under the Chamber, and all of that is broken out now, and we all do separate things. So our board chairman, Jeff Sopp, who's a serial entrepreneur, he's the CEO of Privet. He and John were my biggest advocates in coming over to the Chamber. Asked one of our board members, her name is Abigail Pringle, she's exceptional. Abigail does strategy and development for Wendy's International, to lead a brand new committee. So we're launching a strategic planning committee for the Chamber. And this is vitally important. The work of this 8 or 10 people over the next 6 or 7 months is going to play a huge role in the future of the Chamber and where we go and what we decide to do. And I have a tendency to oversimplify things. So to simplify things, we're going to figure out what businesses the Chamber should be in, and maybe some businesses that we're in now, and maybe we shouldn't be in those lines of businesses. This will be a 3-year plan. We do hope to complete it before the end of this year. It'll be for 2017, 2018, and 2019. And we're going to try to come up with several pillars that will build the new foundation of the Chamber around. That said, there are several things we do now, and we do them extremely well, and we'll continue to do them. One of them, I thought this job would be similar to what I did in a lot of ways. It is completely different, diametric different. Government relations, we do a great job. I know our Kristen Easterday is here. Wave, Kristen, who's our key government relations person. Yes. And the work, the scope of the work the Chamber does, and I use these 2 quick little anecdotes. We got a call from a restaurant owner not so long ago who said, I'm on a busy road, I'm losing a ton of business because I don't have proper egress to my business. And Kristen spent a few hours on the phone and got the city to cut the curb and double the width of this guy's driveway. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is it's like moving mountains to get what's called a curb cut. And so this guy's driveway is now double the width. He's got plenty of egress. It's making thousands of dollars for him. It's absolutely huge. We also fill potholes, I found out. When the mayor's hotline is full or whatever, we've gotten calls from businesses and say, can you fill this pothole for us? And we manage to get it done. And the scope of the government relations work ranges from that all the way to leading the business community in our position on medical marijuana, which is now a real hot button for this community. Unemployment insurance, which is going to be huge. It's going to affect all of us in this room. Another program we're working on. And now minimum wage. You know, minimum wage in the state is $8.10, and talking about taking it to $12 and even $15 an hour. That'll have huge ramifications on small businesses, especially restaurant and shop owners. So we're actively involved in these programs, and we will continue to be. In fact, we're adding a new government relations person in just a few months, which we're really excited about. We harness the energy and the influence of a lot of different organizations at the Chamber. And one of the other things that we're really going to focus on is workforce development. Of course, the Chamber, we represent 1,300 businesses in the community. We also have, thanks to Kristen and our other government relations staff, great relationships with government at all levels, city, county, state, and even the federal government. We have great partnerships with the nonprofit community, and we work deeply in circles in education and social services. And this whole workforce, I know it's something you hear about all the time, talent, workforce, it operates in tremendous silos in this community. There are literally dozens and dozens of workforce programs and initiatives. We think at the Chamber we're uniquely situated to bring all those forces together, to marshal those forces. So that's going to be a key pillar of our foundation moving forward. One of the things I've been talking about to the staff since I came on too is something that's will be critical to the Chamber moving forward, and that's value without participation. I look at the Chamber as being town center. We're town center. We're the meeting place for the business community. But we provide amazing value to the community, but people don't have the time. You don't always have the time to go to all these meetings, to attend meetings and functions. So we're going to look at things where we could add value to our members without having them participate in different things. We're going to create a Chamber Rewards program before the end of the year. I know, Christy, I know a few of the guys are smiling because I've been talking about this a lot. We haven't made a lot of traction on it, but we will. You're going to get, as a Chamber member, a credit card. And we're just going to do it very simply. We're going to have a page on our website. It'll be a Chamber Rewards program, and we're going to ask restaurateurs to give discounts on their food. And we have all these wonderful professional services firms, law firms, accounting firms, insurance agencies. We're going to ask them to give discounts to Chamber members. There's an organization in town, fabulous organization, ECDI. They give small business loans in many underprivileged areas of the community, very important. They're giving Chamber members a 1% interest reduction on all their business loans for the entire life of the loan. You know, that's many thousands of dollars. So value without participation, that'll be a key component of moving forward. And briefly, so I don't leave Nick hanging up here for too much longer, internally, we've established a little program where we call ACT, A-C-T. Very simple. A is for analytics. And I'm not talking about high-level analytics, but we're measuring everything we do. We touch thousands and thousands of companies each and every year. We're measuring that. We're reporting that. C is communications, both internally and externally. You're going to see a lot more from the Chamber moving forward, a lot more communications, a lot more of what we're doing and what's going on. And T is for transparency. Hey, membership is down. Nick said he had a loaded question for me. It involves a lot of things. We're going to build membership. We're going to grow the Chamber. We're going to add new programs and projects. And most importantly, we're going to have a lot of fun. This is an incredibly vibrant business community, as you know. And the Chamber soon will be reflecting that vibrancy. So, you know, it's a changing world out there, and we're changing too at the Chamber. Right now, currently, Latinos make up 18% of the U.S. population. In less than 40 years, they will make up 30% of the United States population. Nearly a third of we Americans will be of Hispanic descent. The Chamber hosts the Columbus Hispanic Chamber. They're part of the Columbus Chamber. We host them in our offices. We give them office space. We're helping. It's a fledgling organization. And soon, the Columbus Diversity Chamber will be part of the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. I was just approached just a few weeks ago by leading members, business owners from our diverse community, and they said they wanted to take this move and create a diversity chamber. We're going to host that. So that's the role of the Chamber moving forward. We're going to partner with as many people as we can, and we're going to build this again to make the Chamber reflect this incredible business community where we all work and live. So, Nick?
Well, I guess that's all my questions. Thank you, Don. So we would have a monthly all-staff meeting. We still do it Business First, and all the management team would get up and talk about their department, their departmental role, and highlights for the month. And Don notoriously would get up first and basically do everyone's part and then turn it over to the management team. So I'm glad to see things haven't changed very much, Don.
Right.
Thank you. First of all, I want to give you your mail.
Any bills,
yeah.
Nick? You could take those back.
No, but you should call your sister. She keeps calling. She doesn't know you've left the paper. So
Yeah. Word travels slow to Buffalo, New York. Sorry.
Well, again, you've checked off a lot of my questions, but I guess the first question I have is, when can we expect to start seeing some of these changes that you're talking about at the Chamber? Do you have timelines yet? Do you have goals yet?
And again, I look at our staff members. They know how I'm chomping at the bit to get rolling on a lot of these things. I've got a laundry list of items. But you know, you've got to create the plan the work, and work the plan. And so even though it's against my personality type sometimes, we're really going to work a plan. We're going to develop this plan, especially for this strategy committee. That's going to be absolutely critical. We do a lot of things, and we do a lot of things well, and I almost wonder if we don't do too much. And I think we have to narrow our focus a little bit and really focus on servicing the business community. I think that's really, really important. They have needs. Oftentimes, especially small and mid-sized business owners don't know where to turn, and we want to be that place for the Chamber.
Now, you're a newspaper guy. You spent your entire career from reporter to...
Since 7th grade at St. Mark's School in North Buffalo, New York, yes.
So how does that background and experience serve you in your new role?
That's an interesting question. Well, conversely, you know, people said, what are you going to miss, or what do you miss? And I told Dominic Kappar, the great editor at Business First and one of my best friends in the world, that when we get a big story, that's going to be a little bit tough. I'm going to miss that edginess when a big story comes through. Well, you know, I was a reporter, so I like living in other people's shoes. I have no problem with that. So going around the community and talking to business people and listening to them, finding out their pain, where their pain is and where their issues and how we can help, I think that will really help me moving forward in this role of the Chamber.
Is there anything about your background that kind of conflicts with your new position?
Well, it's interesting you say that. You asked that, Nick. Well, you know, I've been a newspaper publisher 20 years here, and at January 15th, I just had my 20th anniversary, and 5 years for our paper in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm accustomed to saying what I want to say. I've never been really a shrinking wallflower, which means I haven't always showed the most tact in the world. I'm developing a little bit more, a little bit better etiquette, John. Don't you? You even might have suggested that during the interview process. They coached me a little bit.
Very good suggestion.
Yeah, they coached me a little bit during the interview. Don, you don't want to say that. Don't say that. But you know, it goes back to that ACT, the act, you know, transparency. I don't think it's bad to be transparent. I think it's good to get issues out and to be honest and open and have those difficult conversations about things, because I'm finding out, you know, with all due respect to my predecessor, who was a super guy, that a lot of those conversations might not have been held. So, you know, that's how you execute change. That's how you fix things. That's how you move forward. So,
and you do that with 37 bosses.
Yes.
So tell us about that. It's a little different than reporting
you know,
to one individual.
The board's great. I knew 30 of the 37, and I think we have a couple openings right now. But you know, being in the community for 20 years and moving around and talking to business people, I knew virtually everybody on the board. The board, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, the board, John's the outgoing chairman of the board of directors. The board charged the executive committee to also be the selection committee. So the selection committee who hired me was synonymous with the executive committee to the board. So, you know, they're the ones who gave me this opportunity. If I screw up, it's their fault. So.
What about your constituents, your members, your prospective members? If I know you, you've been out talking to a few people, I'm guessing, in your short time at the Chamber.
Yeah, we've been out quite a bit.
What are they telling you? What's their biggest concern? And what problems can you solve for them?
That's a great question. And Nick, I'm telling you, and it hasn't changed. It really is the talent question. It's workforce. It's finding the right person for that position. And it's most difficult for our constituents at the Chamber, because we really represent small and mid-sized businesses. The large companies, you know, they have their big HR departments, they have their hiring experts and everything, they can bring in consultants. But for the small and mid-sized businesses who can't afford to make a bad hire, one or two bad hires will dramatically affect their bottom line. That talent question is really, really, really important. We've got something new called Talent Connect at the Chamber, and that we're working on, which is really cool. And I'm not going to be able to tell you all the details. I'll screw it up. But I know I believe we're working with Goodwill. We're working with, and Margie Pizzuti's here, wave Margie. We're working with the Jewish Family Services. We're working with United Way. We're working with I Know I Can and a number of other nonprofits. It is a chamber program, and we're identifying habitually unemployable members of our community, folks who've really struggled to keep jobs. And we're helping train them, we're helping develop them, we're creating an interactive website where they're posting their resumes and their photographs, and we're helping them find jobs. And this is and this is what I want to do at the Chamber. I want to apply real business practices to what we do. So we're actually getting things accomplished, instead of having a lot of committees and having a lot of meetings. Not that that's been done in the past, but we're going to get things done. I was told this interesting fact since I've been at the Chamber. There's, in Franklin County, and I believe most of Central Ohio, there are the same number of job openings, virtually the same number of job openings, see Margie shaking or nodding, as there are people who are unemployed. There's almost an equal number of people unemployed in our community as there are job openings. Now, that's not to say those people are fully qualified for those jobs that are open, but it goes to show you that if we can train properly, if we can, put people in the right positions, we can really solve a lot of issues in our community. And I think that's really one of the roles of the Chamber moving forward.
And how does that connect to Jobs Ohio? Ohio means jobs.
I think we're all together. I think we're all together on this. It's all at different levels. And I think we can help even find for IT companies, their technicians who they have to pay $125,000 because they're in such demand and there's such a few number of them that they'll leave your company for $10,000, which is a lot of money, but they'll jump ship over just a little bit amount of money because it's so competitive. But we still have a whole segment of the community too that we want to train and employ and make them great members of our community.
Now, you've lived in a few different cities, so how does Columbus stack up, or where does it fall short in terms of pitching itself, so to say?
Well, I mentioned that my wife and I are originally from Buffalo, New York. We lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, great community, for 5 years. We lived in Jacksonville, Florida for 5 years. What I always said about Columbus and what I love about Columbus is that we pay taxes here, but the services that you get in this community are commensurate with the taxes that you provide. Taxes are very low in the Southeast, and it makes it very competitive for them and much easier for them to do business. But you don't have services. You don't have an infrastructure. There's not a sense of community in those cities like there is here in Columbus, Ohio. And it's now home for us. Wave, Amanda. My lovely daughter is here, who's a writer and editor for City Scene magazine. Graduated from OU last year. We're very proud. She found a job in journalism here in our community. My son is working for a digital marketing firm. Here he graduated from Ohio State last year. And we have a younger son who just finished his freshman year at the University of Kentucky. That can't happen in a lot of cities where you could be proud of your kids and they can find a job in your community and stay home with you. Stay home with us as long as you want, Amanda. So that's great, and that's a wonderful thing. This is home to us. Columbus has become home. The sense of community here is absolutely amazing. When you think about the level of charity, for years, I don't know if it's still the case, but we were the per capita, #1 city in the country per capita in United Way giving. That says an immense amount about this community and how we take care of our own people. And it's just been great.
So we ran a report on growth opportunities for small businesses, 2 to 100. We're kind of not way up there on the list in terms of the cities that American City Business Journal's covered. What's the opportunity there for that size business, that 2 to 100 size business?
I think you're going to see more for the micros, which are 25 and fewer employees. We're trying to categorize that, in fact. The U.S. Small Business Administration for years, 99 and fewer was a small company, 100 to 499 was mid-size, any company over 500 was considered a large company. We're trying to categorize the micro businesses, which I venture 80 to 85% of the businesses in this country. I think there are 29 million small businesses in the United States, and most are micros, have fewer than 25 employees. We're going to focus on that more. even though I would say the Chamber really focuses more on second stage companies, I say our sweet spot is companies $3 to $5 million to $500 million. That's our sweet spot. But the micros are very important. You look at what Tom Walker in less than 3 years has done since he took over Rev1 Ventures in the startup community and the technology community. But Rev1 only focuses on startups and technology. The Chamber needs to focus more on startups in all industries and all areas of business. And it's services, it's support, it's being there. We can talk about that, Nick. Maybe we can partner on a couple of programs to help those fledgling businesses.
That sounds like a great idea, Don.
All right. Just as long as you wet my beak a little.
Yeah.
We have to make a little money
right.
on this.
Right. So, how do you find the money to do that?
This has been a membership-driven model. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about chambers of commerce. And the fact that our membership has declined a little bit over the years is not uncommon with what's happening in chambers around the country. It's a value proposition. It's some of the things I mentioned just a few minutes ago. If people don't think that the chamber is worth that $750 or $1,400 or $5,000 that they're sending to the chamber every year, they're not going to renew that membership. And unfortunately for us, that's happened a little more often than it should in the past. So we have to create value for our members, whether it's a workforce program that everybody can plug into, and you can find people to come work for your business at low cost. Now, let me say, we are embracing all the temporary employment, all the placement firms. We're including them in all of these programs. But those are the types of services that I think we can provide that make that check that you send to the chamber very worthwhile. Very worthwhile.
And what about other private partnerships with the chamber? How are you exploiting that or leveraging that?
I look at the chamber really as a business. I don't look at it as a nonprofit. Although it's fun running a nonprofit, you don't have to make a profit, so it makes things a little bit easier. But I look at the chamber as a business, as a reflection of our 1,300 members. And I told the board at my first board meeting, my second board meeting is tomorrow morning, but I told them I report to you, but I work for our members. They're the ones who need the chamber and need us to provide the services that they'll need to move forward. So, employment, anything that can make running a business easier should be something that the chamber's involved in.
Okay, great. Did I get everything, Doug?
I think that's about right.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about business first a little bit.
Why?
Tell us about your favorite story that you covered as either a reporter or as a publisher of Business First.
Wow. That had to come from Editor Kappa, that question right there. To pin it on one story, I'll tell you one thing, and I think Doug Buchanan, the managing editor of Business First, might have been the banking reporter, was when Bank One sold and moved the headquarters to Chicago. And that was a really traumatic, painful thing for this community, our largest bank. We took the whole edition. We probably had 6 or maybe 7 reporters then. And we just held a couple of crash meetings, marshaled all of our resources, and filled the entire paper with stories about the Bank One sale. And I'm really proud of that. That edition won a lot of awards. Not that we're in journalism to win awards, but we received incredible feedback from the community on what we did and how we covered it. And we talked about the impact, not just of the sale of our biggest bank and our homegrown bank, but the impact it would have down the road as far as not having the decision making anymore in this community. And I think hats off to, we've got great banks in this community, tremendous banks. Hats off to the Huntington and Steve Steinauer for, I think, filling that void over a number of years that we lost when Bank One was sold to Chase.
And who were some of the people early on that helped Business First forward itself in the community?
When I came to town, I had never lived in the Midwest before, although my hometown is more, it's a Great Lakes Basin community, but I think it's more Midwestern in values than East. But I will say that the first executive of his ilk his or her ilk, to call me up and to embrace me was Ron Pizzuti. And I'll never forget that. In fact, I remind Ron when I see him at a Blue Jackets game or whatever that he was the first one who reached out, offered his help. But this is an incredibly inclusive community. It really is. People are always there to help. I went to my first small business council meeting. Summers Martin heads our small business council. And we've got these great small business owners who are all willing to help. They're all willing to help on membership. They all want to get involved and be engaged. This is an incredibly altruistic community. And everybody really cares. And it's one of the reasons why Columbus is Columbus. You know, we had projections that by 2050, by 2050, we were going to add 500,000 residents. And we've outstripped that so dramatically that now we're looking at adding 1 million residents to this community in the next 35 years, 34 years. We're going to go from 2 million to 3 million people here. That's incredible. And you know what? They're just finding out what we already know, what a great place this is to live.
So we're going to move to audience questions in just a moment. Before we do that, we're going to do a lightning round here, Don. So,
great.
Future needs for Columbus to continue its steady growth and popularity in the following.
Okay.
Schools and education.
Oh, man. I'm a business guy. Our new pre-K programs are absolutely critical. We have to get children at an early age to be reading, to be doing simple math problems, to learn how to use their brain, how to study, how to prepare. I know that sounds, but I think that's absolutely critical for the Columbus Public Schools and for all of us, so we have that. So when they hit kindergarten, they know how to read, they know how to do some simple math problems, they already understand the concept of preparation and study, and then when they graduate, they are ready to take on a great job here in our community.
Infrastructure.
You know, ours isn't bad in comparison to a lot of other cities of our size, but you know, there's no doubt that we have our limitations. I think we should start planning an outer belt. I think we should start planning it now. It should be 10 to 12 miles outside of the current outer belt. I think it could spur a lot of growth, a lot of dramatic growth. The people who live, work, play on the outer belt probably won't be working downtown. But I think it'll be important to this community, to our economy, and our ability to move forward.
And tied to that, public transportation.
Well, smart cities. I'm really proud of this chamber staff and the lead role they've taken on this smart cities program. And that $50 million that we are up to win is just the start. And of course, that has a lot to do with electric-powered cars and mass transportation. We're one of the 7 finalists, and I'll let you in on a little secret. It's amazing when you're no longer publisher of Business First what people are willing to tell you. We're really one of the top 5. We're told that the reason there were 7 finalists was because it's a presidential election year, and 2 cities were added strictly because of candidates, which is interesting to me and how it all works. So we need to win this.
That'll be in Business First this afternoon.
Oh, okay. We need to win this. We need to win this. We need to win the smart cities. So when you see something from Mayor Ginther or from another public official, we need to land this project. It will be unbelievable for this community. And all of us, I've commuted 20 miles each way for over 20 years. And it's gotten to be a longer commute. And it's taken 5 years off my life, probably. So smart cities is absolutely critical for us.
And then finally, public policy and government.
You know, I really believe less is more. Of course, you've got a business guy up here. I really believe less is more. I didn't realize, and Kristen has certainly opened my eyes to this, how much legislation affects business and how much legislation. Look at, medical marijuana. We took a family vacation out to the Grand Canyon in Phoenix a year and a half ago, and they had approved medical marijuana. The doctors have billboards out there that say $79, get your prescription for medical marijuana. Let me tell you, if we don't tighten this up, and I know we're working on tightening up this legislation, it'll be almost like legalizing marijuana, I assure you. You have aches and pains, you want to pay a doctor $119, you'll get a prescription for medical marijuana. So we have to be very careful on all of these issues. There's new research already on what's going on in Colorado and other states. You know, people are driving under the influence, and it's causing terrible accidents, all types of issues for the business community. So.
Okay. So final question. Are you a bigger fan of the Columbus Blue Jackets or the Buffalo Sabres, your hometown team? Be careful, Don.
I plead the fifth.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks, Nick. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
So we will we'll go ahead, as is the policy at CMC. It's the tradition to take audience questions. Please state your name, ask your question, and thank you in advance for not making long editorial comments. That's Don's job.
We'll let him do that. Mark Valillo. Don, you're such a unique, you have a unique perspective on the business community, having been involved for so many years in Columbus. What, going into this job at the Columbus Chamber, were you thinking, man, I've always wanted, what were you thinking? Of all the years that you've been involved in the business community, you had at one time or another thought, gee, I wish the Chamber would tackle this.
Well, you know, for 20 years, the management team at Business First and what we did was built relationships. We partnered, you know, when people knocked on our door, we opened the door. And the Business First has tremendous relationships with all types of organizations in this community. And I wanted to bring that to the Chamber. I wanted to, when someone knocks on our door now, and we've got a small staff. We only have about 15 or 16 full-time people, I think. We have some contract employees. It is not a big staff. But we're trying to embrace the community. You know, when this group of LGBT business owners called me several weeks ago and said, you know, we're thinking about forming our own chamber, I embraced that. I embraced them. I said, come on in, let's talk. We've got a cubicle for you. We'll house you here. We'll help you with your billing. We'll help you with your membership. Most importantly, we'll help your members engage our members. And I think that's what it's all about. I think that's what Columbus is all about. I think we have to continue to forge relationships in this community, embrace one another, and that's how we move the community forward. And I think we can do a good job of that at the Chamber.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Fox with the Pizzuti Companies. And Don, I'm curious if you have had the opportunity to look closely at the Insight 2050 plan that MORPC and the Urban Land Institute have been involved with, and what your thoughts are about the Chamber's potential role in helping to support that.
You know, I was at the MORPC annual meeting last week. I thought they did a fantastic job. The keynote speaker was excellent, as were all the speakers. I have not taken a look at that yet. That will be on my list, hopefully sooner rather than later. We've got, you know, a lot of opportunities here. One of our Power Breakfasts, Business First biggest event a number of years ago, we had a national site selector in who works with Fortune 500 companies. And he said, if you take North America as a whole, all of North America, and you run a digital company, and you need one point of distribution for your products for all of North America, it should be in Columbus, Ohio, or in Central Ohio. And that is incredibly important. I really didn't mention the great work that our Jeff Zimmerman does with our Logistics Council, but we have a vertical right now for logistics. And it's a tremendous organization. They do great work. And we recognize the importance of what this community did when they lost Rickenbacker as an Air Force base and turned it into this incredible tax-free, duty-free zone for all of these companies to be able to ship their goods in and out. If you've never gone down to Rickenbacker, try to go down there sometime and see what's going on and all the companies that are down there. It's absolutely amazing. And we have to exploit that. We are a distribution hub for all of North America. So I think that's critical for our future and as we move forward.
Hi guys, Andy Campbell. This is really a question for both of you. And Don, you alluded to this a little bit, that the Chamber is a nonprofit, but I'm wondering about businesses as nonprofits. This is an employment sector. This is a growth sector, I believe, and there seems to be a lot of opportunity there across business sectors, the arts, social services, et cetera. If you'd both take a minute just to comment on nonprofit as businesses in the community and how that might be stimulated and grown.
I'll take the lead if you want to add. You're welcome to. If you look at our services groups in this community, the GCAC, which is run by Tom Katzenmeyer, is a good friend. I've been on Doug Kreidler's marketing committee at the Columbus Foundation since before Doug took over. The library, COSI. You look at the different, it's amazing what we have to offer in this community. And they are all run like businesses. They aren't run like nonprofits. They're run with fiduciary responsibility. They're successful. They have great boards who guide them. And they're very important parts of this community. And the Chamber will reflect that. The Chamber will reflect all of that. And it's important that we keep our wits about us when we run, no matter what type of organization it is, and run it like a business.
So we have our corporate caring event coming up, and Joe DeLoss is our keynote from Hot Chicken Takeover. And I think he's kind of the poster child in town for social enterprise, but there's a lot of that happening in our city right now and cities all across the country. So my personal belief is we're going to see a lot more of that as time goes on.
We hear a lot of criticism about the millennials. I have 3 of them at home. But let me tell you, these young entrepreneurs have an incredible social conscience. They care deeply about their community, and they give back. In everything they do, they give back. So I think things will only get better as they take more important leadership roles in the business community and the services community.
Yes, my name is John McKnight. I work for Rife's Auto Body Collision Repair here in Columbus, and we've had a very difficult time in recent years hiring qualified personnel. You talked some about helping, focusing on workforce development. You talked about in the technology sector and some other areas. Do you have any specific plans that are going to target the skilled trades sector, collision repair or other skilled trades?
Great question. I'll give you 2 examples that are just outstanding. One on a big company and one on a smaller company. So Honda, I think, has been in the community over 30 years now. And I live in Dublin, but I live in Union County. And they're recognizing that now but I think over the next 10 years, 40%, less than 10 years, 40% of their workforce is going to retire. And they see this bubble coming. So they partnered with the Marysville City Schools, Columbus State, and they gutted the original middle school in Marysville. Gutted it completely, renovated the whole thing, and they have Honda engineers trained by Columbus State and Marysville, and with cooperation from Marysville City Schools. And they're offering an associate's degree in engineering. So they're getting kids from the Marysville schools. They're also attracting kids from Dublin schools and other areas, and some of our regional and rural school districts. And they're putting them through a 2-year program, training them specifically for what their needs are in their facilities across Union County for Honda. And when they graduate, so these are kids who are graduating, they're like 19 years old. Depending on the level of skills they show, how well they do in school, they're going to make between $50,000 and $70,000 coming out of school. So when all their buddies are, pledging fraternities at 4-year institutions, these kids are going to come out making $60,000, $70,000. So there's that's one way to attack the workforce issue. When you see that bubble coming for a company like Honda, excellent example. A friend of mine, Mark Swepston, at Atlas Butler Heating and Cooling, has been a great member of the Chamber for years. Saw a need for HVAC technicians, and he went to Columbus State and partnered with Columbus State. They have a program that trains HVAC technicians, And since Mark worked on this with Columbus State, he gets to pick the best graduates, and as they stay over a 3-year period, Mark reimburses their tuition over a 3 or 4 year period. Those are great programs, and those show that there's a huge institution, a huge company there in Honda, Fortune 500, and a small entrepreneur, not so small anymore, but in Atlas Butler Heating and Cooling, who had the vision to figure it out for himself because he knew he was going to have trouble finding technicians. So these are the things that we all need to take a look at. We have to help ourselves first in finding those right people. So, maybe within your industry, you can band together, go visit Columbus State, and see if you can't get a program going, a 2-year program for technicians.
We've been working on that with Columbus State for a couple of years, and it's going to be a while, but yeah, thank you.
Sure.
So, a couple of last questions. What's been the biggest surprise since you started in your new role?
Biggest surprise, I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I'm amazed at the amount of government relations that the Chamber does, and the interaction with City Council, with county, state, and federal. Amazing amount of interaction between the Chamber and what it does. And unfortunately for a lot of people maybe who have not renewed their membership to the Chamber, they don't realize how important that is and the work that the Chamber does. Because even and we have great suburban chambers, fabulous suburban chambers who I hope to embrace and partner with as we move forward. But a lot of suburban chambers don't have the resources to have their own government relations staff, and we do, and we take care of that. So we're representing all the businesses of Central Ohio when we go to work on issues such as unemployment insurance and minimum wage and those sorts of things. It's important work, and we're at the forefront of it.
And how do you interact with the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce?
I've had my first, the Ohio Chamber of Commerce has a coalition meeting every month with the leadership from the 8 largest urban chambers in the state, and they're primarily a lobbying organization.
Advocacy.
Yeah, they're advocacy all the way. And they do great work, and they help all of us, but of course they take a broader view of things, which sometimes are in our best interest being in Columbus, and sometimes may not be.
Mm-hmm. And then Columbus 2020, the partnership, the Chamber, talk about that relationship.
It's a very interesting dynamic. Alex Fisher, the CEO of the partnership, and Kenny McDonald, the CEO of 2020, have been absolutely fantastic. They've welcomed me with open arms. They've embraced me. They want to know how they can help. One of the things we're going to do later in the year is we're going to have membership week for the Chamber. We haven't quite nailed it down, but we want to have membership week where we have all hands on deck, and we try to get as many new companies.
I know a good promotional partner.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Remember, we're a nonprofit. You can donate some of that advertising to us. Added value. Alex and Kenny have offered their resources and their staff time in helping us out with those things. Look for us to do more with the partnership in 2020 as we move forward.
Last question. Give us your elevator pitch for the Columbus Chamber of Commerce.
Well, thanks. I think the Columbus Chamber is a great asset to this community, not only to the business community, but to the community at large. I think when I talked about ACT and the analytics and measuring what we do, I think it's hard to say. Isn't it amazing that I'm sitting here saying that the Chamber is one of the best kept secrets? The work they do, the mission they have, the staff is so passionate about what they do and how hard they work and how dedicated they are. If any of you have ever volunteered, been on a chamber committee and everything, the staff is always unbelievable. I mean, they are so passionate about what they do and they care so deeply. So yes, join the Chamber. Join the Chamber. You won't regret it. Get involved in one of our committees. The networking opportunities are incredible. Support Business First. It's a great publication. And thank you.
Thank you, Don.
What an awesome forum. Congratulations on your new position. Sounds like there's a lot of fun and exciting things to come. I hope you all enjoyed today's forum. You can view and share today's forum and all of our forums on CTV Columbus Television, on WOSU and PBS affiliates statewide, through the Ohio channel and anytime on CMC's website via YouTube. Before we officially thank our sponsor and speakers, I would like to direct your attention to a flyer that you see on your table. We would like to invite you to join us for Conversation 2016, which will be featuring Sherry Turkle, and she is the author of Reclaiming Conversation. So that event is going to take place very soon, next month, June 13th, so we hope to see you there. We would like to thank our sponsor, Deloitte. Thank you so much for sponsoring our event today. We really appreciate it. As well as our speakers, Don DePerro and Nick Fortine. Thank you. And thanks to all of you for being here. We look forward to seeing you again at CMC soon. Have a great afternoon.